Hello, we're standing out here in the Kmart parking lot and we're waiting to meet up with a group from Harold Camping. They have caravans going around spreading the news that Judgment Day is coming May 21st, 2011. That the rapture will happen that day, a great huge earthquake will happen, and Judgment Day begins until October 21st, 2011. The world will come to an end. And so we're waiting out here to meet up with the caravan and some of the people that'll be passing out tracts about the end of the world this year. So we're just waiting here to see what happens to meet up with them.
You?
Action, here we go. Hey.
All right, hi, how you doing?
And your name is John?
I'm John Lotai, yes.
Okay, and we're all here waiting for a caravan from Family Radio to come and distribute tracts about Judgment Day, end of the world.
Exactly, yeah.
And I was just wondering, when did you start listening to Family Radio?
Oh, it's been a long time, I guess, at least 12 years, maybe 15 now, because I don't really remember when I first turned on the dial, but I remember I first discovered Family Radio through a radio, through my car. And exactly, I don't know how it happened, but I know I had a very good taste for radio and music, and probably a lot of classical music before that, and I know that I must have been dialing through the radio to find another interesting radio station.
And you're from New York?
Yes.
Any what part? Upper State or?
Basically New York City.
New York City?
In the Bronx, and I travel a lot there because I drive. So I know New York very well. I've been there for a long time, at least 32 years, maybe 40 years now, I don't know.
What type of work were you involved in there?
I drive a delivery truck before, and I drive the school bus, and then I also do a taxi. That's basically a local job I do. I do have other things. I work as an architect, and I worked as a real estate broker before, but it's all things that I've done.
Are you retired now, or?
No, I still work. I'm thinking about quitting altogether now. You know, it's so close to the end that I should just maybe not even want to go back from this point on. I don't know. But this is the first time that I'm doing the caravan.
When did you first start hearing about the end of the world and start believing that the world was going to end and Judgment Day was May 21st? Was a certain time just recently or a while, or?
I guess constant. It was I was very much in tune with the teachings of and listening to Family Radio constant, even before we were even aware of the end of the church age, which we know now for quite a while. But it just came about immediately as soon as Family Radio announced it on the radio. I was aware of it.
I see.
Yeah.
What was there any key argument or persuasion that made you believe that the end was May 21st, or it's just because camping so well known?
Well, as you might even know, when we were certain about this date, first of all, as you know, we didn't really, or Family Radio didn't really say particularly May 21. It was first 2011 for a short while, although Mr. Camping may have already had the date, but he didn't really disclose it immediately. I remember maybe 5 years ago, and we were all saying, definitely 2011. And then he fine-tuned it and so forth. So now we, came up to the point where it was May 21, and now you would even want to hear almost the hour too, but that really doesn't factor in 100%.
Now, like before, you wrote a book saying the end of the world was in 1994.
Yeah, that's true. That's what it was. Yeah.
Were you listening then when he announced it?
No, really, I am not aware. It's very interesting. Maybe I just discovered the family radio afterwards. I don't know how long.
I see.
But you know, I was not one of the listeners then to say, well, 1994 is coming up now. Let's see how tomorrow is going to fare out. I was not even aware of that.
I see.
Got a newcomer here. Actually, it'd be better if you hold from that angle.
And your name is?
My name is Futsum Libanos.
Okay, and where are you from?
I'm from Trenton, New Jersey. Originally, I'm from Eritrea, East Africa, on the north border of Ethiopia. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I see. Were you lived in Ethiopia for a while, or?
I live in Eritrea for.
And then you came over to America?
Yes, from Ethiopia. Yes.
When did you first hear about family radio? Start listening to family radio?
About 20 years ago. Yeah.
I see. So it's been a while.
Yeah.
Before me a while, yeah.
And what was like the convincing proof or argument that the world is going to, Judgment Day is going to start May 21st, 2011?
Well, I heard it from family radio. So, as Mr. Camping explained it, and I used to say, as a gentleman, an octogenarian, who explained, then I began to say that I was convinced that the Bible was saying that it was.
Were you convinced just recently?
About 2-3 years ago.
2 or 3 years ago?
2 years ago.
Okay. What type of work are you involved in?
I work in a food cafeteria. Right now I'm on suspicion, but I work in food cafeteria for 12 years, in a school cafeteria.
Okay, this is in Trenton?
In Trenton, New Jersey, yeah.
Harold Camping wrote a book that the end of the world was supposed to be in 1994.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
I was just wondering what happened, why it didn't happen in 1994.
I guess he said he didn't know much about the Bible by 1994.
So he knows a lot more now.
Yes, yes.
I was just wondering, are there any preparations have you done for the end of the world here? Like, have you sold your car or your house, or gonna quit your job or anything? Or
I didn't bother.
Suppose the rapture doesn't happen on May 21st. What will you do?
I don't think like that. I hung all my life. If I gave up my job, it means that's the end of it. I may get 6 months unemployment, and that's it. So I have hung up my whole life on it. So that's the only hope I have.
Did you feel this way about 1994, the day before?
No, not
you
really.
Did, not really?
Yeah,
okay.
I was
I
was convinced, but not as today. Yes.
John, what about you? What if the world doesn't end this year and the rapture doesn't happen May 21st?
No, I feel the same way that he just said. I don't have any doubts, or it's impossible for me to think, or a possibility, or maybe, or I know a lot of people, when I speak with them, they give me that, and what this and what if.
Do you know of any other ones that have quit their job or sold their car or house and getting ready for the rapture?
Well, a friend of mine was very close to family radio. His name is Eric. He was in the process of selling the house. Just last summer I was in a mission trip with him, and now he's actually traveling, all over the world out there, some from one country to another. And he may have sold it already, because he said that's what he's hoping to do, so that he can even use the money there involved to do more work for God. Other than that, no, I don't even meet too many people around in New York that really even believe this, although I do speak with a lot of them.
What about you?
No, there's no one that I know who sold his property. Yes. Well, my view is this.
Right.
I don't believe in selling
Right. I was just
your house or get out your pensions or sell your car or anything. But I do believe that if you have the savings, what are you going to save it for?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I know some in the
yeah.
70s thought the
Yeah.
world was going to end,
Yeah.
and they like ran up huge credit cards and took out huge debt loans. Have you done anything like that?
That's not biblical. In fact, the Bible says, "Oh, no man except the love that you have for one another." So if you owe something, you should work hard enough to pay it, so that you have you don't owe anybody except the love that you have for one another.
I guess it's driving over here. And we're trying to get information about Judgment Day. And May 21st, 2011, Judgment Day. We have the van here, and they go around, and maybe we get some little background information of how, if you want to tell about how long you've been listening to family radio, and maybe when you became convinced that this May 21st was Judgment Day. Does any want to give a little background of?
And
where
want to
and
break
when?
the ice?
Well, my name's Robin Harp. I'm from Southeast Pennsylvania. And after being exposed to the Bible and family radio, I've come to the conclusion that Judgment Day is just weeks away. I've known for some time this information has always been in the Bible. It's just nobody was permitted to get to it. Many people have tried. They've always failed because the seals that were sealed up in the book of Daniel were not opened. If you read the book of Daniel, particularly Daniel 8 through 12, you'll see where Daniel was a very curious man. He asked a lot of questions. God talked directly to him. He did give him the information about the end of time, but then he said, seal it up. It shall not be known until the end of time. Not until the end of time are the seals taken off. And that has happened. The seals are taken off. We can see what God has been hiding in the Bible. We know He wants us to cry out to Him mightily for mercy. And that's the problem. In our human pride, we don't want to cry out for mercy. We want to come to God on our own terms. The problem is the churches are finished. God's not using the churches anymore. They've all become so wicked and so evil. Each church has developed their own do-it-yourself program. It's a do-it-yourself salvation program that the reward is going to be death for doing work towards their own salvation, thinking that's going to save them. Only by God's mercy and His grace is there any salvation possible. The churches are under the control of Satan. God left the churches 40 years after Israel went back into their own land, and God has installed Satan to rule in the churches and the congregation. Satan has taken his seat there. He's a servant of God.
Anyone else want to say anything about how long they've been listening to family radio?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, what's your name?
My name is Brent Davis.
Davis?
Yes, about 5 years ago, one night, I had to work overtime, and things went wrong, but I needed something spiritual, and I came across Harold Camping talking, and I was fascinated. Then the following night, the same thing went wrong at work, and I had to stay late, and I was fascinated. But then, I was still convinced that no man could know it the day or the hour, because I was convinced by teachers like Dr. Jack Venapee and others and their premillennialism that was the final authority. And I was really wrong. It wasn't until about a year ago, in January, I happened to start listening to family radio. Many years before that, I had attended a prophecy conference, and somebody said, "Oh no, don't listen to family radio. They're right sometimes and not sometimes." So I had this predetermined idea that I shouldn't listen for all those years. Well, it wasn't until January of last year when I started listening, and Harold Camping said one night, he says, "Who are you going to trust? It's the Bible's the final authority." And I said, "Wait a minute, Brent." And then I started realizing, I said, Harold Camping is so humble. And I saw this night after night. And I saw Dr. Jack Venipy would go up and boast and say, "Well, I read 100,000 hours of the Bible and I read 11,000 volumes." And like, who are you going to trust? It was almost like he put off. And it was boasting. And I looked at Harold Camping. I didn't look, but I listened. And what convinced me was, I said, Brent, and then all the things I was learning, night after night, a little here and a little there, it started to all add up. And then I started ordering some of the material, and I started reading it. And I realized the horror. I said I was not saved at all. I was trusting in something that I had done, a confession of faith that Dr. Jack Venipy taught and many of these others. And the sad thing was that I was taught a whole set of lies. I had attended churches over the years, and I left one and went to another, thinking that I would find the right one, and I never did. And I finally just left on my own. And I had a pastor that came over one night and wondered why I hadn't been there for a while. And I'll tell you something, it was the best thing that I stopped going. And I'll say one thing, I have learned so much within the last over a year that I ever learned before. And I can say one thing honestly, the Bible is the final authority, and there is no other authority. And I thank you so much for having the opportunity to express what I can share. And I want to be a service to the Lord and do what I can do. Time is very short. The days are compressing closer and closer to that final hour. Thank you very much for being a part of what humbly I can offer.
Thank you for sharing.
There's
the Caravan. There's the volunteers.
We might be able to get a good view of the side. I'm going to get a picture of here. This is what they're driving around in.
Awesome news. End of the world is almost here. Is that really awesome news?
Now there's nobody in it. Are they just driving around? I guess driving around town to make it known.
It's all God's mercy and His grace, and nothing but that.
Oh, it looks like you got to get going.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for sharing. Again,
Bye-bye.
good hearing.